Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here with me today. Before I begin, tell me what city you're watching from. I'd love to know. Now let me take you to El Paso, Texas, where the desert sun has a way of revealing every secret eventually. On the morning of my son's wedding, I woke at 5:00 a.m. I hadn't really slept. The air felt heavy, dry, and full of something I couldn't name. Maybe it was nerves. Maybe it was dread. I told myself, every mother feels this way on her son's big day. I padded into my home office, the same room where I've balanced accounts for years. Numbers usually calm me, but that morning they were only a blur on the screen. I own a small accounting consultancy. Nothing glamorous, but it helped us keep our home pay for Lucas's education and cover everything my husband David's real estate projects couldn't. Outside the window, dawn spread slowly over the Franklin Mountains. By this time tomorrow, I told myself Lucas would be married to Eva Ramos, a bright, beautiful interior designer from a well-known family. Everyone called them a perfect match. So why did my stomach twist each time I pictured her smile? A knock on the door pulled me back to reality. Lucas stood there, barefoot, hair tousled, holding 2 mugs of coffee. He looked like the same boy who used to sit by my desk doing homework, only now he wore the weight of adulthood on his face. "Mom," he said softly. "You've been up all night. I just want everything to be perfect for my boy," I replied, forcing a cheerful tone. He hesitated. "Can I ask you something?" I nodded. "Do you think Eva really loves me?" The question hung in the air like smoke. "Of course she does," I said. But even to my own ears it sounded thin. He stared at his coffee. "Sometimes when she's with Dad, I feel like I disappear. They talk about business investment ideas, real estate trends." She laughs at his jokes like she's trying to impress him. Before I could respond, the door opened again. David stepped in, freshly shaved, wearing an expensive shirt. "What are my 2 favorite people doing up so early?" he said with a wide smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Eva's coming by later," he added casually. "We need to finalize the seating chart." I watched him straighten his cufflinks. The picture of charm. Then as he reached for his jacket, something slipped from the pocket, a hotel keycard. He didn't notice. I did. I picked it up after he left, feeling the edges dig into my palm. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. And for the first time in 27 years of marriage, I was ready to find out what. The house was too quiet after they left. Even the clock on the hallway wall seemed hesitant to tick. I tried to busy myself wiping the counters that were already spotless, checking the floral arrangements for the 10th time, but my mind kept circling back to that key card burning a hole in my pocket. A name was printed on it. Sunset Crest Hotel. I knew that place. It sat on the edge of town, overlooking the desert, a hideaway, popular with business travelers and with people who had something to hide. At 10 sharp tires crunched on the driveway. I looked out the kitchen window. Eva's silver sedan glided to a stop, gleaming in the Texas Sunday. She stepped out gracefully, her hair pinned back, wearing jeans and a cream blouse that looked effortless and expensive. She held a binder against her chest like a prop in a play about responsibility. I should have opened the door and greeted her like the polite hostess I'd always been. Instead, I slipped out the back and circled the garden. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. I crouched behind the row of mesquite bushes lining the living room windows. Through the glass, I saw David open the door and usher her in. He poured 2 glasses of wine. It wasn't even noon. She laughed at something he said, touching his arm lightly. The scene unfolded like a slow-motion nightmare. He leaned closer, whispering something that made her smile wider. Then his hand slid down her back. She didn't pull away. She tilted her head toward him, and he kissed her. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. 27 years of loyalty and shared struggle collapsed in an instant, replaced by a soundless scream in my chest. I was about to burst through the door to end this disgusting performance when I saw a flicker of movement upstairs. In the reflection on the glass, someone stood at the top of the staircase. Lucas. He wasn't moving, just watching. His face was pale, expressionless like stone. My breath caught as he slowly turned and disappeared down the hallway. A minute later, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I jumped. "Mom," he whispered. His voice trembled, but his eyes were steady. "Don't. Not yet, Elijah." I started, then caught myself. "Lucas. There, I know," he said, quietly. "I already know, and it's worse than this." He pulled a folded envelope from his pocket and looked at me with a calm that frightened me. "I've been waiting for proof. Now I have it, but I need your help to finish it." The wind disturbed the desert dust around us. I could still see the shadows moving inside the house. My son's fiancée and my husband. I looked at Lucas's face, so heartbreakingly young and suddenly older than I'd ever seen. "Tell me everything," I said. Lucas led me inside through the side door and locked it behind us. My hands were still shaking. The house felt foreign now, like a stage where all the props meant something different than they had an hour ago. He guided me into my office, the blinds drawn tight. "I've been tracking them for weeks," he began quietly. At first, I thought I was losing my mind. Dad always said he was meeting clients, and Eva told me she had late design consultations, but the times kept overlapping. He opened his laptop, the screen filled with photos that made my stomach twist. David and Eva stepping out of restaurants, their faces half hidden. David's truck parked behind the Sunset Crest Hotel. Eva's reflection caught in the passenger side mirror. Each image was time-stamped, dated, undeniable. "I asked someone I trust to follow them," Lucas said. "Uncle Miguel?" My heart lurched. "Miguel Rentia, the detective?" He nodded. "He retired last year, but he still takes private jobs. He's been a friend to you since forever. I didn't want to drag you into it until I had proof." The photos kept scrolling. Receipts for expensive dinners, hotel charges under a shell company's name, text messages between 2 prepaid numbers. "Can't wait to see you again. I'll tell him I'm working late." I gripped the edge of my desk to keep from collapsing. Lucas's voice hardened. "They've been together for months, Mom. Maybe longer. And I think Eva's after more than just him. She's been pushing Dad to invest in her design firm, but there's no record of it. No tax ID, no clients, nothing." He clicked another file. Bank statements filled the screen. "She's been siphoning money from one of his development accounts. Uncle Miguel traced it. It's theft, plain and simple." My mouth went dry. "So she's using him and he's betraying us to help her." Lucas knotted his jaw tight. "They both think I'm clueless, but tomorrow at the wedding everyone will know the truth." "Lucas," I whispered. "You can't humiliate them in front of hundreds of people. Can't I?" he asked, eyes burning. "If we confront them privately, Dad will twist it. He'll say you're paranoid and I'm jealous. But in public, he can't lie his way out of that." I stared at my son. He wasn't the boy I'd raised anymore. There was a coldness in his resolve that both frightened and impressed me. He turned the laptop toward me one last time. "Uncle Miguel's gathering the final piece tonight. Once we have it, we'll make sure they can never hurt us again." I swallowed hard, feeling the faint tremor of something new. Not fear, not even grief. It was purpose. "Then tell me what to do," I said. That night, Miguel came to the house under the pretense of dropping off extra security badges for the wedding staff. To everyone else, he was just an old family friend checking in. To us, he was the last thread of truth holding this family together. He carried a leather folder and a flash drive. His expression was grave. "Before you see this, Catherine, I need you to brace yourself." He slid a document across my desk. It was a spreadsheet, neat columns of numbers, transactions highlighted in yellow. "Your husband has been moving money from your joint savings into something called Moreno Interiors LLC, registered 3 months ago with Eva Ramos listed as managing partner." I stared at the header. "That's the design firm she keeps bragging about." "Miguel Nah only on paper. There are no clients, no invoices, no legitimate revenue. It's a shell company used to funnel funds from David's accounts. The trail leads straight to a private bank in Santa Fe." The room felt smaller. I could hear my pulse echoing in my ears. "He's been stealing from our accounts," I whispered. "From my retirement." Miguel's voice softened. Yes, and that's not all. While I was tracing the transfers, I found a pattern of monthly payments going back 16 years, always on the same date, always the same amount wired to a woman named Lydia Navarro in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Lucas frowned. Who is she? Miguel hesitated. She used to work for one of David's partner firms in Albuquerque. She left abruptly right around the time those payments began. He flipped open another photo. It showed a modest one-story house, a woman in her early 40s, standing on the porch beside a teenage girl. That's Lydia, and this is her daughter Marisol. She's 16. I felt my breath catch. My heart seemed to drop into my stomach. Are you saying? Miguel nodded grimly. We ran a few background checks. No father listed on the birth certificate, and the payment amounts matched the timeline exactly. For a long moment, none of us spoke. The only sound was the faint hum of the computer. Then Lucas asked quietly, You think she's Dad's kid? Miguel's silence was answer enough. I stood gripping the back of my chair for balance. I want proof, not suspicion. Proof. I can get it. Miguel said a DNA comparison. We just need a sample from David. That night after everyone went to bed, I moved through the house in darkness. My hands trembled as I picked up his toothbrush from the bathroom counter and sealed it in a plastic bag. By dawn, I handed it to Miguel at the gate. 3 days later, he called. His voice was steady, almost gentle. The results are back, Catherine. Probability of paternity, 99.999%. I didn't cry. I just sat there in silence, staring out at the desert horizon, realizing the man I had shared a life with had been living another one just a few miles away. The day I received the DNA confirmation, something inside me went still. The pain didn't vanish. It simply hardened into clarity. The man I'd once loved had turned my entire life into a performance, and I was done playing the quiet supporting role. That afternoon, Lucas and I sat with Miguel at my dining table. A map of the wedding venue spread before us like a battlefield. The soft chime of wind against the windows was the only sound as we planned every detail. Miguel traced his finger across the layout. We'll have the main projector set up behind the altar, he said. Your son's slideshow will start like normal, but when the cue comes, I'll switch the feed to the evidence folder. He pointed to a small remote. This is yours, Catherine. One button starts it all. I stared at the sleek black device lying in my palm. It felt absurd that something so small could detonate 27 years of lies. What if it's too much? I asked quietly. What if this ruins Lucas's life too? Lucas shook his head. Mom, my life was already ruined the moment I saw them together. What you're doing isn't revenge. It's truth, and I want the world to see it. I nodded. The truth would speak for itself. We rehearsed the timing again and again. The vows, the officiant's words, the precise moment when I would stand. Miguel's team, posing as videographers, would capture everything from multiple angles for legal documentation. That night, I prepared my own final act. In my study, I signed the divorce papers I'd kept hidden for weeks. The pen glided smoothly, my signature clean and certain. I slipped the envelope into my clutch, along with the flash drive containing every piece of evidence, bank records, hotel photos, forged signatures, and the DNA results. The next morning, I put on my pearl earrings, the same ones David had given me on our 10th anniversary. For a moment, I studied myself in the mirror. Same eyes, same hands, but the woman staring back looked different. Her gaze was sharper, colder, resolved. At the venue, everything gleamed beneath the desert Sunday. Guests arrived laughing, sipping champagne, oblivious. Eva moved gracefully through the crowd, her lace gown flowing like innocence itself. When she saw me, she smiled. I smiled back. Beautiful day, isn't it? She said. Yes, I answered softly. Perfect, in fact. Lucas met my eyes across the garden and gave a slight nod, the signal we'd agreed upon. The trap was set. They thought today would bind them together forever. They had no idea it would end everything. By 4:00, the Texas sun hung low, gilding the desert horizon in soft gold. The string quartet began to play, and the crowd of nearly 300 guests turned their attention to the aisle lined with white roses and pale desert lies. Everything was perfect, at least on the surface. I sat in the front row beside David, my fingers wrapped around the small black remote in my clutch. To anyone watching, I was just a proud mother, calm and composed. Inside, I could hear my heartbeat thundering like a war drum. Eva appeared at the end of the aisle, radiant in her gown. She smiled, glowing with practiced charm. Her eyes flickered toward David just for a second, but it was enough. That single glance was a message only the two of them understood. As she reached the altar, Lucas took her hand, his expression unreadable. He looked composed, almost serene. No one could guess that beneath that calm was a storm waiting to break. The officiant began, "Marriage is built on trust, on faith, and on truth." His voice echoed softly through the garden. My throat tightened. The irony was almost unbearable. When he reached the familiar words, "If anyone here has any reason why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace." A hush fell over the guests. That was the cue. I stood up. The sound of my chair scraping against the stone path was deafening. Heads turned. David's smile froze. "Catherine," he hissed under his breath. "Sit down. Don't do this." I ignored him. My voice was steady, clear. "Yes, I have a reason." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Eva's parents exchanged panicked glances. I pressed the button. The screen behind the altar flickered to life. At first there were childhood photos of Lucas smiling carefree innocent. Then suddenly the images changed. A picture of David and Eva leaving the Sunset Crest Hotel filled the screen. Then another, his hand on her waist. Her lips on his. The silence shattered. People screamed, chairs scraped. Someone dropped a glass. Eva's mother clutched her chest. Her father shot to his feet, furious. David lunged for the projector, shouting, "This is fake! She's lost her mind!" But the next slide appeared bank records, forged loan forms transfers into Moreno Interiors LLC. My voice cut through the chaos. He stole from our retirement. She helped him hide it. Then came the final image, the DNA report. Bold letters declaring probability of paternity. 99.9999%. A photo of a young girl, Marisol, appeared beside it. "This," I said, my voice trembling but strong as David's daughter, the one he hid for 16 years. The crowd went silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. Eva swayed on her feet, whispering, "No, no," in before collapsing onto the steps, her veil pulling around her like spilled milk. David turned to run, but Miguel stepped forward from the crowd, no longer in disguise, flashing his investigator badge. Behind him, 2 police officers approached calmly. "Eva Ramos," one of them announced. "You are under arrest for embezzlement and wire fraud." As the handcuffs clicked shut, the string quartet's abandoned instruments lay gleaming in the Sunday. And for the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. The wedding that never was made front-page headlines by sunrise. Every local news station in El Paso, and even a few from across the border, ran the same footage. Eva in handcuffs, David shouting and shoving through a sea of guests, and me standing still as the chaos unfolded behind me. The story had everything. Betrayal crime and a public downfall. The perfect storm. I didn't leave my house for 3 days. Reporters parked outside shouting questions through the gates. Friends called but didn't know what to say. Some offered sympathy. Others wanted gossip. I ignored them all. My phone stayed silent on the kitchen counter, except for one message from Lucas. "You did the right thing, Mom." When the dust settled, the investigations began. Miguel handed over every file to the authorities. The Financial Crimes Division confirmed everything. Ava's company was a money-laundering front, and David had used my forged signature to take loans from our joint retirement fund. He had even falsified investor documents to funnel money into their fake projects. Within a month, David's development firm shut down. His business partners withdrew his accounts were frozen, and his name vanished from every professional circle that once adored him. He faced multiple charges for fraud and forgery, but the prosecutors offered him a deal in exchange for full restitution. He took it desperate to avoid prison. Ava wasn't as lucky. Her firm discovered she had embezzled over $300,000 in total. The Ramos family's lawyers tried to negotiate, but the evidence was airtight. She accepted a plea deal 3 years in federal prison and full repayment. Her father, a respected attorney, resigned from the state bar. Her mother stopped showing up to charity boards. Their family name became a quiet whisper no one dared repeat in polite company. I finalized my divorce within weeks. There were no fights, no pleas, no negotiations. David signed whatever my lawyer put in front of him. I got the house, the remaining assets, and peace of mind. It wasn't victory, it was recovery. Then one morning, an envelope arrived. No return address, just my name written neatly across the front. Inside was a letter from Lydia Navarro. Her handwriting was small and careful. She apologized for everything, for the years of silence, for the secret she'd carried, for the pain her daughter's existence must have caused. She ended the letter with one line that stopped my breath. Marisol has seen the news. She knows everything. She wants to meet you and her brother. I sat at the table for a long time, the letter trembling in my hands. I didn't know whether to cry or to pray because after everything I'd lost, life was asking me to open my heart again. A year passed, though sometimes it still felt like yesterday. The house on Desert Bloom Drive stood quieter now, stripped of luxury, but full of peace. I sold the big property, the one with a garden where everything had fallen apart, and bought a smaller adobe home on the edge of the Franklin Mountains. Mornings here were different. The light was softer, the silence kinder. Lucas came by every Sunday for breakfast. He had rebuilt his life from the ashes, returning to school to study landscape architecture. He told me designing gardens made him feel like he was turning chaos into order. I saw in him the same calm strength I had once lost in myself. We met Marisol 2 months after the letter arrived. I'll never forget that day. We chose a quiet cafe halfway between El Paso and Los Cusus. When the door opened, I saw her before she even spotted us, 16 tall with David's eyes and Lucas's quiet smile. She hesitated at first, clutching her backpack like a shield. Lydia followed close behind, nervous but polite. "Hi," Marisol said softly. "I just wanted to know who my brother was." Lucas stood, his voice gentle. "Then, let's fix that." We talked for hours that day about school music and everything, except the man who had tied our lives together. By the end, Marisol smiled for the first time, and it was genuine. She wasn't to blame for what her parents had done. She was just a girl searching for truth, just like the rest of us. Since then, she's come to visit often. Sometimes she brings her mother, sometimes she comes alone. I make her cinnamon coffee and listen to her talk about college plans. Watching Lucas tease her like a real brother is something I never thought I'd see. Yet it feels strangely natural, like our family was meant to look this way all along. Last month I received an unexpected visitor. David showed up at my door, thinner, older, carrying a small envelope. He said he'd finished therapy. He said he finally understood the wreckage he'd caused. He handed me the envelope. It was a letter of apology, handwritten, every word shaking with guilt. I looked at him and felt nothing sharp. Only release. "I forgive you," I said quietly. "Not because you deserve it, but because I need to breathe again." He nodded, tears spilling down his cheeks, and left without another word. That night I sat outside watching the sunset fade across the mountains. For the first time in years, I wasn't haunted by lies or anger. I realized that truth, even when it shatters everything, also frees us to begin again. If you're listening now, remember this. Sometimes the destruction of what you thought was your life is not the end. It's the clearing that makes room for something honest to grow.